Imagine being handed a new power tool that lets you do your job 3 times faster. You should be thrilled. But a massive new survey of 81,000 workers shows that the people using artificial intelligence the most to boost their daily productivity are actually, the most terrified about their future.
Welcome to episode 486 of AI Brief.
Today, we are bringing you a deep dive into a massive shift in how artificial intelligence is being built. We will look at how it is being acquired globally and the intense pressure it is putting on the daily workforce.
We have a highly focused agenda for you. DeepSeek V4 is turning 1 million token contexts into the new industry standard. Also, the U.S. government is formally accusing Chinese labs of industrial-scale AI extraction.
And we will unpack that surprising productivity survey we just mentioned to understand the real economic impact on your daily job. Plus, we will run through a deliberate briefing on the rest of the industry news and outline today's top trending AI tools to give you the leverage you actually need. Let us jump straight into the architecture changes resetting the market this week. Because DeepSeek just turned long-context AI into a widely available product rather than, a futuristic promise. Their V4 preview is now live and fully open-sourced.
They have effectively made a 1 million token context window cheap enough to become the default setting, which, completely resets their own stack and puts immense pressure on the rest of the market.
Okay, let us unpack this, because a 1 million token window is massive. If we think of that context window as a giant warehouse where the AI stores all the information you feed it, DeepSeek is not just building the warehouse for us. They are handing out the forklifts to move everything around for free.
That is a great way to picture it. And to execute this, they released 2 distinct models. First, there is V4 Pro, which is the heavy lifter designed for complex math, STEM applications, and agentic coding.
It ships with 1.6 trillion total parameters. But here's the critical innovation. It only uses 49 billion active parameters during inference.
Wait, let me stop you there. 1.6 trillion total, but only 49 billion active. If the model has 1.6 trillion parameters, why would it not use all of them to solve a complex problem? Would you not want all that brain power working at once?
Think of it like a massive corporate office building. The total parameters were all 1,600 employees working in the building. But for any specific project, say, fixing a highly specific bug in an application, you do not call all 1,600 people into the conference room.
It would be chaos and incredibly expensive in terms of time and resources. So you only activate the 49 engineers who actually specialize in that specific code base.
That mechanism is called sparse attention. So instead of the model comparing every single word to every other word in a million token document, which requires ridiculous amounts of computational power, sparse attention trains the model to only look at the most relevant connections.
It essentially has a routing system to find the right experts in the building. And they combine that sparse attention with another technique called token-wise compression.
Because when you scale a context window to 1 million tokens, the computational memory required usually explodes.
Token-wise compression essentially summarizes the background information. It compresses the less important data so the active parameters can zip through the context window without the memory demands skyrocketing. They drastically cut compute costs without losing the overarching context.
And they also dropped a second model, V4 Flash. This one has 284 billion total parameters with just 13 billion active.
Flash is designed purely for speed and lower cost on simpler tasks. Their API is already live, and what is really smart is that it supports the standard structures used by OpenAI and Anthropic.
Which makes it incredibly easy for developers to switch their applications over to DeepSeek. They are so confident in this new architecture that they are entirely retiring their old DeepSeek Chat and DeepSeek Reasoner models on July 24, 2026.
We need to look at this critically, though. Raw size does not automatically equal usability. The real test is if that smaller V4 Flash model can actually maintain its reasoning at scale.
Usually when you push a smaller active parameter count to its absolute limit, the model suffers from lost in the middle syndrome.
Oh, that is where you upload 10 massive documents, ask a question about the 5th one, and the model completely forgets the information buried in the center of the prompt.
We will need to see if their token-wise compression actually holds up under real-world enterprise loads without hallucinating. But if it does, building massive, cheap models just became incredibly accessible.
Building massive, cheap models is an incredible feat of engineering. But the U.S. government is now formally questioning how some of these international models are getting so smart so fast.
A new White House memo authored by Michael Kratsios directly accuses Chinese firms of industrial-scale distillation against U.S. frontier labs.
The memo specifically names DeepSeek, Moonshot, and Minimax. The claim is that these companies are engaging in massive data extraction operations.
Distillation in this context means taking a smaller, less capable AI system and training it directly on the highly sophisticated outputs of a leading frontier model.
So this is essentially cramming for a final exam by stealing the valedictorian's notes.
Training a frontier model from scratch requires hundreds of millions of dollars in compute, plus massive trial and error. Distillation allows a competitor to bypass that costly discovery phase entirely.
But wait, if you just steal the valedictorian's notes, you memorize the final answers. You do not actually learn how to do the complex math. Does the AI actually learn the underlying reasoning, or is it just parroting the high-quality answers it scraped?
That is what makes neural networks so unique. If you feed them enough high-level reasoning outputs showing the step-by-step logic from the leading model, the smaller system actually learns to internalize those patterns.
It learns to mimic that high-level reasoning. The accusation here is that these firms are using thousands of fake API accounts and sophisticated jailbreaks to constantly query U.S. models.
They siphon off those high-quality answers and train their own systems. This takes what was previously a private complaint from Anthropic back in February and turns it into official federal policy.
And the timing is impossible to ignore. This memo drops just weeks before Donald Trump's scheduled Beijing summit with Xi Jinping on May 14th and 15th.
The Chinese embassy has entirely dismissed the accusations, calling them pure slander. But this fundamentally changes the geopolitical calculation.
If the capability gap is closing because of scraping tactics rather than new architectural breakthroughs, the strategic advantage of U.S. labs is highly vulnerable.
Here is where I get confused, though. How do you realistically police this? Can you actually enforce an export ban on API outputs?
Especially when the actors are allegedly using thousands of dummy accounts, the technical infrastructure required to differentiate a legitimate international developer from an automated distillation bot operating through a VPN seems incredibly complex.
If the data is just text flowing through an API, stopping it without shutting down access for legitimate users worldwide seems nearly impossible.
That enforcement gap is exactly why we're seeing legislative pressure to shift the strategy. A House Foreign Affairs bill just cleared its first vote, which could push the administration to add distillation offenders directly to the U.S. export blacklist.
How does an export blacklist fix an API scraping problem? I mean, the data is still flowing over the internet.
The blacklist would not stop the text from flowing, but it would sever these specific companies from the global financial and technological supply chain.
Even if you steal the perfectly reasoned data, you still need massive physical compute hardware to process that data and train your model.
Specifically advanced microchips. The blacklist makes it exponentially harder for them to acquire the physical hardware they need to put the stolen notes to use.
From the geopolitical anxiety of who owns the models, we shift to the very real anxiety of the people actually using them in the workplace. Let us unpack that startling survey we mentioned at the top of the show.
Anthropic just published a massive economic follow-up to their Claude survey. They analyzed data from over 81,000 users.
The core finding is a fascinating look at the modern workforce. The workers getting the absolute biggest productivity lift from AI are the most terrified of losing their jobs to it.
Heavy Claude users voice displacement fears 3 times more often than low users, and software engineers actually lead the anxiety index.
Furthermore, early career workers are the most worried demographic. This directly backs up Anthropic's earlier data showing a noticeable hiring slowdown for recent graduates in the United States.
It is the paradox of the power tool. The faster you frame the house with a brand new automatic nail gun, the sooner the foreman wonders if he actually needs a full construction crew.
The survey respondents acknowledged that the AI is making their tasks significantly faster and freeing up their time. But that efficiency does not translate to working fewer hours or taking Friday off.
It just results in an expanded scope of work. They are expected to produce significantly more output in the exact same amount of time.
It is the classic economic rebound effect playing out in white-collar work. When the cost of producing code or market analysis or copywriting drops because AI makes it so much faster, the demand for those outputs skyrockets.
The individual worker becomes highly leveraged, spending their day managing AI agents rather than doing the raw, hands-on work. But that leverage fundamentally isolates them.
It creates a hyper-competitive environment where the baseline expectation for daily output is constantly shifting upward. Despite the massive productivity boosts, worker sentiment has never been lower.
And there are currently no structural solutions in sight to ease that tension.
Let us shift our rhythm here. I want to take a slower, more measured look at the rest of the industry news shaping the landscape today. These are the developments happening right now that will directly impact those baseline expectations we just talked about.
We can start with Anthropic. They are deeply expanding their enterprise footprint. Claude-managed agents now feature built-in memory.
So these agents learn from every single session, storing those memories as editable files that users can review or manually update. They also added everyday connectors to platforms like TripAdvisor, Booking.com, Spotify, Instacart, Resi, and Uber.
And that links directly to what Microsoft is doing. They are making a similar massive push into autonomous enterprise workflows. Agent is now the default mode for Copilot across the entire Office suite, including Word, Excel, and PowerPoint.
So Copilot is no longer just a passive chatbot sitting in a sidebar waiting for a prompt. It actively takes multi-step actions across different documents and worksheets, functioning as a true collaborator while you focus on other things.
To support this industry-wide shift toward autonomous systems, a company called Band just launched a new infrastructure layer specifically designed for multi-agent systems.
It is built to operate across any environment. It provides the necessary connective tissue for different AI agents to communicate and execute complex tasks together without human intervention.
Shifting back to Anthropic, they also published a post-mortem regarding recent complaints about Claude Code's quality degrading. They successfully traced the issue down to 3 specific bugs in the system.
And they have officially reset subscriber usage limits to compensate users for the disruption. Meanwhile, in the medical sector, OpenAI launched ChatGPT for clinicians.
This is a specialized, free platform for verified U.S. health workers. It is powered by GPT 5.4, which recently scored a 59.0 on the HealthBench Pro evaluation.
That score beats both human physicians and Anthropic's Opus 4.7 model. Returning to the workforce anxiety we explored earlier, we are seeing the material impact of these efficiency gains.
Meta released an internal memo confirming a 10% workforce reduction coming in May. The memo specifically cites AI efficiency as a primary driver for the layoffs.
This marks a direct, tangible transition from AI serving as a productivity tool to AI functioning as a mechanism for organizational restructuring. On the engineering side, Elon Musk's SpaceX is in active talks with the French AI startup Mistral.
This is reportedly a 3-way partnership that also involves the coding startup Cursor. It signals a major integration of European open-weight models directly into advanced aerospace engineering workflows.
Finally, Tencent has open-sourced their HY3 preview model. This was built from a completely rebuilt training stack.
Early benchmarks show highly competitive scores in agentic coding and search tasks, placing it near the very top of the open-source leaderboard.
If the sheer volume of output expected from you is causing that anxiety we talked about, you need leverage. Let us bring the focus back to your immediate workflow.
We have compiled the top trending AI tools that you can deploy today to streamline your operations and manage that expanded scope of work. We will start with content and media.
FocuSee is an automated video tool. It takes your basic raw screen recordings and automatically edits them into polished, stunning product videos.
It completely handles all the zooms, pacing, and highlights for you. For unstructured audio, VoiceDash is a powerful transcription and structuring engine.
It instantly transforms raw, unstructured speech into cleanly edited, highly structured text documents, which saves hours of manual formatting.
Moving over to team coordination, Kollab provides a shared workspace designed specifically for human teams to work seamlessly alongside AI agents in real time,
bridging the gap between human management and AI execution. For technical writing, Docsio accelerates the process entirely.
You simply paste any URL into the system, and it generates a complete, fully branded documentation site in a matter of minutes.
On the heavy computation and coding side, GPT 5.5 is OpenAI's newly released flagship model. It currently holds the top rating across multiple industry benchmarks for complex reasoning.
Ultrareview is a dedicated command integrated within Claude Code. It allows developers to run comprehensive, multi-agent code reviews instantly, identifying vulnerabilities before deployment.
ChatGPT for clinicians, as we detailed in the briefing, is the new specialized free version tailored explicitly for verified U.S. doctors to securely assist with medical workflows.
And Qwen 3.627b is Alibaba's latest 27 billion parameter model. It is specifically optimized for programming and significantly outcodes its predecessor in agentic environments.
That wraps up our analysis of the rapid shifts happening across the AI landscape this week. From the democratization of million-token context windows to the profound economic anxiety rippling through the engineering workforce.
The ground under the technology sector is moving faster than ever. It leaves us with a critical question to consider as these autonomous agents become the default in our offices.
If the AI is doing the executing and the human is simply managing the agent, at what point does the manager become entirely redundant to the system they trained?
Something to definitely consider as you build out your workflows this week. Thank you for tuning in to this deep dive.
Please make sure to follow us on your favorite app and share our show with a colleague who needs to stay ahead of the curve. See you in the next episode.